7th grade Tang Kamikaze has to put up with, I'm going to go play 1v1 games where I can actually get the good feel for it. So I only played 1v1s on the Small Divide. And I'm sure some of you have heard the stories if you watched the Zotac cast I did. But I would only play on Small Divide, which is like a 64 by 64 map that you both start on islands. And I would Mutalisk rush 100% of games. And by now my alias had evolved. I was no longer Tang Kamikaze, I was Sean-P. My name's Sean Plott. Getting clever, right? Before I even continue with this story of me like 1v1ing on the Small Divide, I just want to give you a picture of what I looked like at this age. So I was short, okay? At the start of 7th grade, I was 5'2". At the end of 8th grade, I was 6'1". That hurt, that period. It was like a Willy Wonka chocolate factory style growth, right? What was I talking about? What's my train of thought? Oh yeah, so I was really short. But my mom had seen how much my brother had grown, so she bought me like big, extra large t-shirts. And I really liked sweatpants, but I didn't like that the extra large t-shirt would like hang over, so I tucked the shirt into my sweatpants. So there was just this like ring of collected stuff. And my sweatpants, I tucked into my fluorescent purple snow boots with Velcro. And I would actually play with the Velcro snow boots at school, be like, and I just enjoyed doing that because I just had these little nervous tweaks as a kid. I also had these thick, enormous glasses that I would wear, and I would use them to like melt insects and stuff. And I mean, these things were gigantic, and my vision was really bad, so they shrunk my eyes, so it looked all silly and stuff. And then I moosed my hair, not gel my hair, I would mousse it. And I would mousse it directly to the left, right? It was like a sheet of hair. And it would flake off in the day, and my eyes were allergic to it. So I would always have these bloodshot, red eyes with like tears coming down. And you know how I socialize with people? I would walk up to them, and I would say random facts that I was pretty sure they didn't know. Oh, baby, yes, I sure know how to work with the ladies. I would go up and be like, did you know that the tree sloth moves an average of 6 feet per second? And unsurprisingly, she got beat up after school, right? Hell, I would beat me up, right? That was a good little formative moment for me as a youthful nerd. But, going back to these games of StarCraft, I mean, this is like maybe 1-2 years later after this state that I just described. I wasn't much better, right? It was still pretty similar. I liked the idea that I was intellectual, hence why I bought the Protoss StarCraft box, because Protoss were clever. Terrans were scrappy and Zergs were bugs, and I still hate bugs. Don't want any of them. But I was a mastermind, right? I only played 1v1s on the Small Divide. I got it. All I had to do was make a pool 12. I made the extractor on 12, and then I would get a layer once my pool finished, and then I would get hatch when I could, which is pretty close to optimal, right? Except I had to do it on an island because I couldn't wrap my head around rushes. And I actually explained to people at my school, again, keeping in line with the facts that you don't know, I would explain to people at my school why I was so good, right? I would literally go up to girls I had crushes on and be like, hey, you ever heard of StarCraft? And they'd be like, no. Apparently they had very deep voices then. They'd be like, no, absolutely not. So I'd go, all right, well, it's this strategy game, and I have an account, Sean-P. I'm 13-1 on it. I have another account, Sean-P, right? Just using different delimiters. I'm Sean''P, and I'm 15-2 on that. And look, you're probably saying, how is it that you get so good at this game? But I have discovered a trick. If you get air units really fast, you can win if he doesn't have anti-air, right? A lot of assumptions there. And I actually did start losing a lot of games. I literally did this for, like 3-4 months, like only playing on the Small Divide multiple games in a row. On my 56K modem connection, one hand only. And I would lose to people who would get air, and I'd be like, how did he know I was getting air? Has to be cheating. I was one of those guys. Oh, God, how humiliating. He has to be cheating. Because if it's an island map, how does he know I'm going to go air? So, eventually I ended up finding out about cool places where good people hung out, where good people were. And these places were known then as Clan X17 on the East server. That is where the best of the best of the best hung out all day. If you wanted a game with good people, you try to join. Normally couldn't, normally full. 40 people. Ooh, channels hit its maximum capacity. Couldn't join. I would sometimes sit in an empty channel just trying to join X17 because if I got in there and 1v1 someone, I knew I would eventually be against the best of the best of the best of StarCraft players. So eventually I ended up getting into X17 and playing with all those people, and I actually started using my keyboard. And this was around when I was an 8th grader going into freshman year of high school. I actually used the keyboard now, no hotkeys. I didn't use like Control 1, Control 3. I used SH to help that mass hydralistic strategy I was talking about earlier. I didn't use SM because, man, M sure is really far across the keyboard, so I'm not going to have any of that. Happily just stuck with, SH and SZ and SD because, I was pretty set on Zerg at that point in time. And now I'm actually starting to get to where the real 1v1 players are. Players like First Tsunami, if you guys remember this. Wreckroll existed back then, except he played under the name 88 Lurker. In Control existed back then. There were strong players like Pillars. Where's some other names? Agent 911. Jolly were some other good players. Oh, God, there was one, it's on the tip of my tongue. Who is that player? Blackish Red, that's right. Blackish Red. The first ever big tournament my brother and I tried to qualify for was the World Cyber Games Challenge. Not the first World Cyber Games that happened in 2001, but like the 1999-2001, when like the KBK tournaments were running, when players like GG99 Slayer and Elky were very, very strong foreigners. And I remember my brother was invited to the Blackish claim. He was Blackish Gold. He got really far in the tournament and he lost and he was like horribly upset and everything. And it's so funny to think about the way that strategies worked back then. By the way, I just want to briefly interject and note that my camera seems to be doing weird things to the color, so I'm actually going to see if I can adjust this. Okay, it seems like it'll be a little more stable now. Sincere apologies. But okay, so these were the strategies that we faced back then. Here was a standard strategy in Zerg vs. Terran. I 9-pull you, and I build a hatchery in your base, and I sunken push you. Because think about it. Terran only has Marines then, and no one's going to check their rank. No. You have to get a force and then move to secure your rank. And of course, everyone's now playing Lost Temple around these days. So, you do this a lot. What are some other weird, nutty strategies? Like one base Corsair Reaver against Zerg was unstoppable. Nick and I improved it to one base Reaver Scout because the Scout does so much more damage than